Hey guys, today I'd like to follow up my previous video, which was about basic deductions, by talking a little bit about how you can take the process a step further and get more information out of a situation. If you remember the process I explained, you take information that you observe, make deductions about it, and then preferably confirm whether your deductions are correct. The way you can take it further is if you make deductions, take information, make deductions, take the conclusions that you made in this step and put them back in as new information, and then make new conclusions based on the conclusion of a previous deduction, if that makes sense. Like if you observe that someone has a wedding ring on, this leads you to believe they are married, and now you use the fact that they're married as a basis for a new conclusion. If they're married, what can you deduce now about them now that you know they're married? That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. But you have to be careful. You've really got to develop a feel for this because it's easy to get carried away, and the more consecutive deductions you make built upon other deductions that you don't have a 100% chance of being correct about, each successive deduction becomes less and less likely. And the reason for this is that's the way basic probability works. If you make a deduction and you have a 4 out of 5 chance of being correct, and then you take that conclusion and use it to make another deduction, which also has a 4 out of 5 chance of being correct, the second one actually now has a 16 out of 25 chance of being correct. And if you did it again with the conclusion of your second deduction, you make another deduction that has a probability of 4 out of 5. The probability of if all 3 of them being correct, particularly the last one, the probability that the last one will also turn out to be correct is actually 64 out of 125, and that's approaching 50% chance. That's to round it off. That's about 1 out of 2 to simplify, and this is not good odds. When you approach 1 out of 2 for the odds, you are approaching just guessing and no longer deducing anymore. And you don't want to be guessing. So basically, it's really easy to make conclusions that eventually become improbable simply because you're building them on conclusions that you're not absolutely sure of. If you can verify the conclusion first, that would be even better. But if you can't, you can still use this as long as you're really careful. It takes a lot of practice to get to where you can do this without, going into improbable territory. An example of how Sherlock used this correctly. Let's take from the first episode of the BBC series Sherlock, whenever he was deducing things about Watson's phone. He first deduced that Watson had just returned from military service. He reasoned he was an army doctor. Okay, now that information became important. Now he didn't verify that information yet, but that information became important. That conclusion, he built upon that later on whenever he said, you're a war hero who can't find a place to live, so it's unlikely you have an extended family, and certainly not one you're close to, so the phone belongs to your brother. The key thing there is that he built that conclusion is somewhat based on the fact that Watson is a war hero who can't find a place to stay. That was a deduction that he made earlier about Watson. He said that your haircut, the way you hold yourself says military, your conversation as you entered the room, he reasoned he was an army doctor. And then later on, that became important in making the conclusion that he doesn't have an extended family that he's close to because he's a war hero who can't find a place to live. So that's an example of how a conclusion you make about one thing can be used as further information to make a new conclusion about something else. So, a couple of announcements. I want to start uploading videos more regularly, preferably every Monday. I'm also going to get a camera so that I can improve the quality of the videos instead of using my laptop camera, and hopefully I can get a better place to film than just in the garage here. And I'll be able to make the content a little bit more interesting if I can get the time to work on it a bit more. As it is, thank you very much for liking, commenting, and subscribing. I want to thank you very much for watching the videos and subscribing to my channel if you already have. And I will see you in the next video.